May Allah heal you from whatever pain you are suffering from. May Allah heal you from whatever pain you are suffering from.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'awudhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulullah.
يا رسول
Wa
الله
ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah.
وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا حبيب
As-salatu
الله
wassalamu alayka ya Nabi Allah.
الصلاة والسلام عليك يا نبي
Wa ala
الله
alika wa ashabika ya Nur Allah.
وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا نور الله.
MashaAllah. Viewers of Madani Channel, welcome to our weekly program, Spiritual Cures, in which Dr. Sabr Madani is with us today and he'll give us a spiritual cure for any of these diseases. I think the Sabr Bhai will agree with me that whenever we have any form of illness, we should also take medical advice as well. But the spiritual cure that the Sabr Bhai will give you, unlike any other medicine that you may take, may have a side effect. This, inshallah, will not have a side effect. And inshallah, if nothing else, you'll get the reward of reciting the spiritual cure as well, inshallah. But like any other program that you watch on Madani Channel, when you ever watch a program or you attend a weekly Ijtima, which is one of the events of Dawat Islami, we begin by giving you a blessing of reciting the Park upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we shouldn't make it any different today. It is found in the book of Tirmizi Sharif, a famous book of hadith, that the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam reported to have said, "The closest person to me on the day of judgment will be the one who sent the most salat upon me." Allah Akbar. Viewers of Madani Channel, obviously we want to, where is the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam going to be on the day of judgment? He's going to be there gathering the people, helping them cross the bridge of Sirat. He will be there giving them, quenching their thirst from the pond of Abi Kawthar. He'll be there entering the people into paradise. And surely if we can be by his side at that most crucial time, then inshallah azza wa jal, we can be amongst the favored ones. And the way we are told, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself has told us that the way to be close to the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to recite Durud Pak upon him. And we mentioned it many, many times before, views of the channel. We need to make it part of our daily routine. Tasawwur Bhai will give us wazaif, he'll give us wazifa that we need to read for spiritual illness, for any illnesses that we have. But at the same time, one of the things that we need to be doing, and you will find out that when he gives you any spiritual cure, he will give you that begin with sending Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and end with sending Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So why not just send Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the rest of the day? And as Muslims, we in this modern world, we say that we're in a rat race. We say we're busy. We say we've got no time, but we can manage our time. And I remember the Sarbai, I went to Australia and there was a doctor there that I met, and he traveled literally, I think 2.5 hours to work a day and 2.5 hours back. And I said to him, "What are you doing there 2.5 hours?" He said, "I never listen to the radio. I never listen to anything. I do my wazaif, my urad, and I recite Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." And I'm thinking to myself, out of them 2.5 hours, let's say he was only concentrating for half an hour. The rest of the time he wasn't saying anything. Half an hour, how much Durud Pak he would recite upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So during our daily routine, find time. We have time. There's time during our day where we're waiting for things to happen, waiting to see people, waiting for the next customer, waiting for the doctor, waiting for something. This waiting time should never be wasted time. And one of the best ways of utilizing our time is sending Durud Pak upon the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today I want to talk about a certain illness, because what we're talking about on spiritual cures is normally we talk about physical illnesses. People will send a message in that I've got a stomach ache, I've got muscle ache, I've got earache, I've got pains in my throat, I've got this illness, I've got that illness. But what we fail to realize is that there are certain illnesses that are not physical, but that are affecting our hearts. The diseases of the hearts. And when we're talking about that, we're talking about diseases like lying, backbiting, cheating, swearing, having greed, having, ostentation, being proud of yourself. These are all diseases as well that we need to be aware of. And in the same way that we go to the doctor and we ask the doctor, and the doctor does us a full blood check, and he does a blood check on us, and we find out what our situation is. We find out, what our cholesterol is, what our sugar levels are, what our other pH levels are, what all our blood count is. And we then change our lifestyle according to that. In the same way, we need to do a spiritual check. We need to check the diseases of the heart and ask ourselves, are we falling, are we being affected by the disease of lying, cheating, swearing, backbiting, and all the other diseases? And the only way we can do that check is because there's not like a meter I can put on you. I can't put a blood pressure meter on you and say, oh, you got, you're suffering from lying. you're suffering from cheating, you're suffering from backbiting. There isn't that kind of a meter that I can put on you, unfortunately. But what you need to do is you need to look at yourself. And in this particular case, these sort of diseases that we're talking about, viewers on the channel, you are the doctor. You are the doctor. You are the one that's going to diagnose the illness. You are the one that's going to decide whether you've got this problem or not. And you are the one that's going to decide whether you're going to get the cure or not. All I can give you, and inshallah I will give you during this program, is the symptoms. And with the symptoms, you can look at yourself and you can say, well, yes, maybe, yes, or have, and look at yourself and analyze yourself. And what I want to talk to you today very briefly is the illness of greed. Greed is in many, many different forms. I'm just going to give you a parable that's been mentioned on a booklet that's published by Maktabat al-Madina. It's a book called Ayun al-Qayat on page 396. And it mentions that there's a certain individual, and in his house there was a snake. And this was an amazing snake in that it would lay a golden egg every day. And the owner of the house, he was so happy that he was getting this wealth free of charge. And he had greatly emphasized to his family members not to tell anybody about it, because if he told other people about it, then they would obviously have wanted the snake. Now this continued for many months, until one day the snake left its burrow and it bit the goat that was owned by the owner of the goat, the person of the house, the person in whose house the snake was. And what happened is that a short time later, the goat died. Now, obviously, the owner and his wife, they were concerned about this, because they thought, well, if the snake can kill a goat, what about us? It can do this. But they were blinded by the greed and thought, well, you know what? Let's just see how it goes. Let's just see what happens, because you know what? It's a one-off. Maybe it's against the nature of the snake. Maybe it had a bad day, And so let's see what happens. So again, every day, the snake laid a golden egg. And so back to normal, they're happy. They'd forgot about the fact that they'd lost the goat, and they thought, you know what? It's a goat. I've got golden eggs. I can buy loads of goats. But then one day what happened is, again, that snake came out. And this time, it killed their pet donkey. And again, the donkey died straight away. And again, they were concerned. Again, they were concerned and worried about what would happen. What could this snake potentially do? But again, like before, greed overtook them. And they were blinded by the fact that this snake is given as a golden egg. And they did contemplate for a short while that, you know what, maybe we should kill this snake. Maybe we should get rid of this snake, because this snake is killing our animals now. What happens if it turns on us? But again, the green, they were blinded by the green. And then what happened is it came out, and this time it bit their slave. And again, same thing happened. The slave died. Again, the same contemplation, the same worry, the same concern. But again, they thought, you know what, let's carry on. And then one day it came out and it bit the child of the owner. So that now definitely the mother and the father, they were, grief-stricken by this. And they were really contemplating that, you know what, we're definitely going to kill the snake. We've had enough of this snake now. And so, but the snake, it didn't come out of its hole. It stayed there for a long time. And so they're thinking, you know what, we're going to kill the snake. We're going to kill the snake. But then what happened was the snake, instead of pushing that gold, it pushed out some pearls and diamonds. And they thought to themselves, you know what, maybe the snake has changed its nature. Before it was laying golden eggs. Now it's laying, diamonds and pearls. And because it's changed its nature and what it's laying, maybe it's changed its nature completely, and maybe it's not going to bite anybody anymore. So again, once greed overtook them and they decided to let it go. Now, instead of golden eggs, they were collecting diamonds and pearls, and they were so happy. But then one day, the snake came out and bit the wife. Bit the wife of the husband. And again, the same thing happened. The same problem happened. That the same concern happened. And he made a promise that he's going to kill the snake now. But then he's thinking, I'm on my own now. I just, what difference does it make? I can have all this wealth. But again, what happened was that one day, the snake came out and bit him. And because of this greed, he died by the snake bite. And people came rushing and found out that in the house there was gold all stacked up there. And they killed the snake. But he was overtook by this greed. And as a result of that greed, he lost his goat, didn't see sense. Lost his donkey, didn't see sense. Lost his slave, didn't see sense. Lost his only child, didn't see sense. Lost his wife and didn't see sense. And this what can happen with greed. It can blind you, viewers of the channel, that you don't see what is right and what is wrong. And we see in today's society that people start committing all sorts of crimes, all sorts of sins, because They do not see what is right and what is wrong. They only see the end result. They see the fact that I'm getting money. They don't care where that money comes from. They'll go and sell drugs. They'll go and commit all sorts of crimes. They don't care what they're doing as long as they get that end result. And the end result is the drugs. The end result is the money, that greed that they want for that wealth. And so this greed can blind us. So we need to be aware of this, viewers of Madani Channel, that, you know, when we live our lives, we shouldn't be blinded by these things. You know, the same way that, like I said earlier on, there's certain diseases. You might come and say to, you know, to somebody, look, I have an eyesight problem and I struggle with my eyes, you know, I struggle seeing properly, give me a spiritual cure. In the same way, struggle with our eyesight, we see the result. We don't see the result of our greed. We don't see what's happening in our lives, what's happening around us, what this greed is causing. And that is an extreme example. You know, we don't have snakes that lay golden eggs anymore. Yeah, I know we don't have snakes that lay golden eggs, but what we do have is we have this greed for money. And when we have this greed for money, we forget about everything else. We forget about what's happening around us. We forget about what we should and what we shouldn't be doing. We forget about going to the masjid and reading a namaz. We forget about fasting during the month of Ramadan. We forget the fact that Hajj is falls upon us. Why? Because we just want that end result. We just want more and more and more and more. And we forget everything. And the result of that, you know, in that particular case, that snake bit the goat, that snake bit the donkey, that snake bit, and he lost them things. But what we're losing our lives in the fact that we're forgetting what our responsibilities are, what our roles are, what Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to do, what Allah Azza wa Jal has commanded us to do. And as a result of that, we are getting ourselves in more and more and more a burden of sin. We're not seeing that, we're blinded to it. We're not realizing all the sins that we're committed. We're not realizing the burden of sins that we're collecting with us. We're not realizing that we've got this diseases affecting us. And this is the problem, like any other disease. You know, when you have, I think there's certain illnesses, I think maybe, I don't know, cholesterol, maybe cholesterol is one of the diseases that you could have and you don't realize that you have. But other things like blood pressure, like sugar, diabetes, you feel it, you know, and pains in your body, you feel it. These spiritual diseases that I mentioned to you, you don't feel it. Yeah, but it's happening. And the only way that you can realize it's happening is you open up your eyes and examine yourself. You need to look in front of a mirror in the morning and say, look, okay, where is my life going? What am I doing? You know, and analyze yourself. What am I doing on a day-to-day basis? You know, Amir Surat has given us the beautiful Madani Namaz card. And what is that? That Madani Namaz card is basically a pious deeds booklet that we look at. And we question ourselves that, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you avoid this? Did you avoid this? And it's like a test for ourselves. You know, they say like a litmus paper tests the pH of any chemical. This pious deeds booklet is a litmus test for our iman. You can see where you are going, where you're not going. And if you go through that and you realize, well, I'm not reading my namaz, I'm not doing this, and I'm committing this, and I'm committing that, oh my God. Oof, I need to sort myself out. And in fact, that is one of the things, you know, viewers of Madani Channel, that, you know, I would advise all of you. Alhamdulillah, there's a pious deeds app that you can download. It's completely free of charge. We're not going to charge any money. We're not going to charge you a subscription to fill it in. You know, the booklet is very, very cheap. And if you buy the booklet, it's 10, 15, 20 pence or something like that. But you can download the app. It's completely free of charge. And I would advise you all that we all need to self-analyze ourselves. We want to go to the doctors. We want to get ourselves tested. We get the BP, the sugar, and we feel happy. We feel happy. Sometimes what happens is you go to the doctors and you feel unwell. You don't feel right. But once the doctor's done all these checks and he says, nothing wrong with you, straight away you feel better. Straight away you feel better because the doctor has told you there's nothing wrong with you. In the same way, you need to know whether there is something wrong with you. You need to analyze yourself. You need to check yourself. And there's many, many ways of doing it. First of all, finding out what the disease is. Finding out what the symptoms of these spiritual diseases are. And secondly, associating yourselves with those people that will talk about these diseases. If you attend the weekly ijtimas, if you watch Madani Channel, if you travel on the Madani Qaflas, where you're talking about lying, about backbiting, about swearing, about cheating, you know, there's probably many, many people out there that even though Amir Sunnah has literally written an encyclopedia on backbiting, he's written an encyclopedia on backbiting. There's not a single book in the world that's so extensive as the book that Amir Sunnah has written on backbiting, but there's probably many, many Muslims out there that will not be able to define you what backbiting is. So if you do not know what the disease is, if you do not know what the symptoms are, how can you possibly even look for the cure? How can you possibly even rectify yourselves? And this is where Muslims all around the world, in all walks, in all times, in all positions, we're living our lives where we've got these diseases of the heart attacking us from left, right, and center, and we don't even realize it. We don't even realize it. And they're saying that when you go into the masjid, you're not supposed to have a bad breath, you know? And people say, well, you know, I check, I've not got a bad breath. Yeah, I put ithr on, I've got all these things on. But we're also told that those people that backbite, a foul smell comes from their mouth. And we don't even know it. Why? Because we're so immune to that it's happening so much around us, we don't realize that backbiting is happening around us. And so we can't even smell it. If you cannot even smell it, if you cannot even see this problem, then how can you possibly look for the cure? So we need to be aware of these spiritual diseases. I think I'm going to just take a minute now because I've got into the VR now. I think I need to check if there's any messages. Sorry, Tasawwur is looking at me thinking, you're not doing anything here.
I wanted to mention, you mentioned about hidden illnesses.
Yeah.
And it's like other illnesses that you mentioned, that you go to the doctor, somebody's got fever, other symptoms.
You can feel,
you can feel, and you actually feel, the body actually feels, so it reacts. And then you go to the doctor. But there are illnesses, like you mentioned, cholesterol, or even other illnesses. Yeah. It's like the heart, it's like the heart attack, it happens all of a sudden. That's like the end result.
Certain cancers,
but before
you don't
that,
realize,
before that, it's all building up, where your blood is not flowing correctly, etc.
And what happens is you get to a point where you can't be cured.
Well, you can't,
it's too late.
So these things are happening. So those are hidden illnesses as well. But here we're talking about hidden illnesses inside the body, which are not, which is spiritual hidden illness, you can say. And alhamdulillah, there's a book which the Majlis wrote, Batini Bimariyon Ka Ilaj, it's in Urdu, I don't think it's been translated in English. Achha. That pinpoints each of these hidden type of illnesses, hidden illnesses of the heart, and it pinpoints, and then it actually, if those of you advise, those of you who can read Urdu, I'd advise you to read this book. And those of you who can't, maybe sit with somebody who can, because I've actually read the book, Khalid Bhai, beautiful. And the way it's laid out is it mentions an illness, a hidden illness, then it mentions the symptoms of that hidden illness and how it causes destruction, and then it gives you the cure at the end. And like that, it's going through each one, and it's quite a thick book.
I think it's very important for us, like you said, that unless we're aware, you mentioned the heart attack, and you mentioned cholesterol, you mentioned other illnesses, that certain illnesses, they'll affect you and they'll just make you weak. But certain illnesses can take your life. And in the same way, there's certain spiritual diseases that make you spiritually weak, but there's certain spiritual diseases that can take your iman.
And also cause death.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate destruction that we have, that if you, as a result of these diseases that we're not aware of, we lose our iman, then, what have we achieved? You may be the richest person in the world, you may have the biggest house in England, you may have the fastest car, the biggest bank balance. Your wife might have more gold than anybody else in the whole of, UK or wherever you're watching this program. So what? If you're, as a result of the way you're living your life, you're contemplating and you're getting all these diseases on board, then you're a very, very, very sick person. And the problem is we don't realize how sick we are. And so there are people walking around with physical diseases, physical diseases, they don't realize they're sick. They were talking a lot. We've had the pandemic that's happening in the recent years. That we're talking a lot of people that are walking around, they're carrying the disease and they don't even realize it. Yeah, they carry the disease and they don't even realize it because they're not feeling the symptoms. In the same way, we could be carrying all sorts of diseases around with us, but we don't feel the symptoms. We're not feeling, if you're committing the sin of, having this greed inside you, malice inside you, lying, cheating, swearing, backbiting inside you, what are you feeling? Are you feeling any pain? Unless your nafs, starts to feel that pain inside you, that regret inside you, but your nafs will only, put forward that pain if you're aware that there is that pain. Because what happens is, like some illnesses, you can numb the pain. And what happens is with these illnesses, because we're not even aware that they're illnesses, we don't consider them as illnesses, we don't consider them as a problem. We think that to get as much wealth as possible, no matter how we get it, is success. Whereas in fact, getting wealth by the wrong manner, by committing haram, by lying, cheating, swearing, by robbing, by selling drugs, by doing whatever we are doing, that's not a successful life. That's not a successful life. And then the money that you've achieved by haram, that you're feeding your children that haram. Now you may think, oh, well, how can I feed my children haram money? The food that you buy, even though the food is halal food, but if it's bought with haram money, then that affects the food that you're buying. And so we need to be aware of all of these things. So, when we look at our lives, when we look at the problems that we're facing, in today's society, every family is facing problems. People are facing problems with the wives, people are facing problems with the husbands, people are facing problems with the children, the parents, the brothers, the sisters. And I think before you look at them and say, why is it that my wife's like this? Why is it my husband's like this? Why are my children like this? Why are my brothers like this? Why are my parents like this? Look at yourself and say, where am I? Where am I? And you will realize that a lot of the problems that we are facing in society today as a result of this person. The person that you look at in the mirror in the morning, that is the person that you need to sort. Rather than sorting out your wife, your husband, your children, your parents, your brother and sister, sort out that person in the mirror first. It's hard to sort out other people. Sort out yourself first. And when you've sorted out yourself, inshallah, Azza wa Jal, the people around you, inshallah, we can see, you'll see that change. But you need to analyze yourself. We're talking about spiritual cures here. You need to analyze yourself. You need to look at yourself. You need to see where you are going, what the problem is, and then inshallah, Azza wa Jal, we can take a way forward. I've got one request here, Tasawwur Bhai. It's regarding eczema. That someone was saying that whenever they go to Pakistan, with the heat over there, their hands are fine. They get back here and 48 hours later, they got another problem. I've got another one actually, itchy skin, probably similar problem. So itchy skin is one, and eczema is another one, where they have this problem. I don't know if we can have a wazifa for them. The eczema one, someone sent me a message saying that whenever they go to Pakistan, within 24 hours, 48 hours, I think the heat, they get cured. As soon as they come here with the damp, cold Lancashire weather, Yorkshire weather, it affects them. And all of a sudden they have this problem. So if you can give a spiritual cure for them, and inshallah, I'll continue. And then when you've got the spiritual cure, inshallah, we'll take it from there. Viewers of Madani Channel, we're talking about greed. We're talking about the example that we gave with the snake and the golden eggs, etc. Allah Azza wa Jalla has mentioned in the Quran, this is one of the diseases of the heart that are specifically mentioned in the Quran. And Allah Azza wa Jalla has said that the heart is trapped in greed. The heart can get trapped in greed. And this is in Surah Nisa, verse 128. And it is mentioned under this verse in Tafsir Khazan that greed is certainly a part of the heart, for it is created like this. And it is generally thought that greed is only linked to wealth and money. However, greed is not just about wealth and money. Shaykh al-Hadith Alama Abdullah Mustafa Azmi Rahmatullah Ta'ala writes that greed and avarice are present in food. Yes, we're greedy for food, aren't we? People are very greedy for food. Clothing, properties, goods, wealth, honor, fame, and in short, in every blessing. For example, food. I might be greedy for food. What is greed for food? I'll fill my table with so much food, and yet I can only eat that much. The rest is as a result of greed. Yeah, that's my appetite, but I want this much on my table. Especially during the month of Ramadan, when it comes to Iftari time, I want all of this on my table, even though I've been fasting all day. And when I actually open my fast, I can only have a couple of dates and a glass of water. But you have that greed. You want all that food in front, and that is greed. Greed for clothes where you're not even utilizing. People go out and you see them, buying clothes, and the cupboards are full of new clothes. They've never worn them, but they wanted them at the time. Yeah?
There's a saying regarding that, Khalid bhai, I'm going to say, that the stomach gets full. It's the eyes that
eyes
don't get full.
But it's the same with anything else. The eyes is what it is, isn't it? The fact that you want that clothes and you're never going to wear them. You want them shoes. You hear of people that they've got 30 pairs of shoes. 20 pairs of shoes they've got. I hear of some Islamic brothers that got 50, 60 jubbeh, yeah. And I'm thinking, what? And then you've got, properties and cars and money and wealth. And the other thing is power. People are greedy for power as well. That they want to have this power, and it gets to the head. That, they want to be able to control people. They want to be able to manipulate people. They want to have this control over people. And this is also greed. This is also greed, where they want this power, this control. This is also a form of greed. And all of these forms of greed can ultimately cause destruction. Yeah. When we're talking about, greedy for food, you're wasting food. Greedy for clothes, you're wasting clothes. Greedy for things that we're not going to use, it's a wastage. But then greedy for power, where you utilize that power in the wrong way, yeah, then it's there. Now, towards the end of the program, I'm going to talk about certain greeds that are beneficial. Yes, there are certain greeds that are beneficial, believe it or not, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later on. But these are the sort of things that, we need to be aware of. Are we greedy for food? You get people that, I remember once, so I don't know if I should mention this on the channel or not. He said to me, what is the difference between, and it's just two individuals. I'm not going to mention what these two type of individuals was. And he said that this type of individual, he eats until he's full. And this type of individual, he eats until he falls asleep. Yeah? And this is the greed. This is the greed inside these people, that they eat until they fall asleep. They just keep on eating until they collapse and go to sleep. And again, our deen doesn't teach us this. When we talk about food, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that, divide your stomach into three: food, water, and air. And what happens is you see people that when they eat too much, they get ill. So these are the effects of eating too much, the effects of greed. In this particular case, when it comes to food, the effects of greed become apparent on you. You start having cholesterol problems, you start having sugar problems, you start becoming overweight, you start becoming unhealthy, you start having breathing problems. Why? Because you've been eating too much, you've got this greed for food, you don't care what you're eating, you don't care how much you're eating, and you're eating and eating and eating, and as a result of that, it starts to affect you. So in the case of greed for food, you'll see the results. But in the case of greed for other things, sometimes you don't see the results. But you need to be aware of the fact that that greed can exist inside you. Have we got any wazaif for us?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In regards to, we'll cover both actually, those who are suffering with eczema or generally itchy skin. It mentions that recite the following verse. I'll mention the reference of its verse. It's chapter 18, Surah Mu'minun. Chapter 18, Surah Mu'minun, verse number 14. Chapter 18, Surah Mu'minun, verse number 14. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. فَكَسَوْنَا الْعِظَامَ لَحْمًا ثُمَّ أَنشَأْنَاهُ خَلْقًا آخَرَ فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنُ الْخَالِقِينَ. So recite this Durood Sharif before and after. Recite it just the once, Durood Sharif before and after, and then perform them upon the affected area, inshallah, which will ease the...
We've got a few here. We want a wazifa for disobedient children. Another one for a wazifa for having a son. Another one here for a wazifa for peace of mind. Viewers of the channel, we were talking about greed, and greed is just one of the diseases of the heart that we could be afflicted from. If I was to say to you, look, that you've got this illness, yeah, and if you don't make a change in your life, right, you're going to die within the next 6 months, you would make a change instantaneously. You would say, look, tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I need to do to change my life, to sort my life out, because you're saying to me that if I continue with this lifestyle, I'm going to die, I'm going to have an early death. You would change your lifestyle. Why all of a sudden are we not bothered? Why all of a sudden are we not concerned? Why all of a sudden are we not really worried about the fact that, you know what, I need to get myself checked. I need to find out. If I was to say to you, look, if you get your blood checked, and if you've got a blood count of this much or more, you're on the risk of having this disease, and this disease is prevalent in the society right now, you would go and get your blood checked tomorrow to see what your blood count was and say, oh my God, yeah, my blood count's high, I need to get myself sorted. Or you get your blood count and you say, oh, I'm okay. Alhamdulillah, I'm okay. But why is it when the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying to that you will not enter paradise, you're not worried about it? And we should be worried about it. And if we're not worried about it, then that again is a problem for us. And I would request the Sabar Bhai to give us a wazaif, to give us something that, you know, makes us contemplate about the hereafter, make us think about our condition, make us worry about ourselves, and make us, you know, have that fear inside us. I don't know if there is anything that you can give us the Sabar Bhai, that myself and all the viewers, that we could read on a daily basis, that would make us think, make us contemplate, make us have this worry, make us think about the hereafter. You know, if there's anything that you can give us at the Sabar Bhai, it'll be a great help, I think, for myself, for yourself, and all of the viewers here, that if we can have this mindset that we are worried about the hereafter, then inshallah we can better ourselves. Jeeta Sabar Bhai.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In regards to a disobedient child, it's mentioned that after Salatul Fajr, if you place your hand on the forehead of the child and recite Ya Shaheedu, Ya Shaheedu, Ya Shaheedu 21 times, Durood Sharif before and after, inshallah until the duration is until the purpose is fulfilled, inshallah.
Subhanallah.
And in regards to having a baby boy, the actual spiritual cure is regard Friday, so it's Friday today, so you can, those who are desiring a baby boy can start this wazifa from today. And it mentions, without fail, every Friday recite the following Ya Bari'u, Ya Bari'u, Ya Bari'u 10 times with the Durood Sharif before and after. And here the couple can recite it, mashallah, inshallah.
You got another one, or shall I carry on?
Ji,
okay. Another hadith of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with regards to greed. And again, this is, you know, if we really listen Not just with our ears, but with our heart. This will really, you'll really understand the hikmah and the wisdom behind this hadith. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, avoid greed, for it is greed that destroyed the nations before you. Greed drove them to lying, so they began to lie. It drove them to be unjust, so they began to be unjust. It drove them towards breaking ties of kinship, so they began to break ties of kinship. It incited them towards oppression, so they began acts of oppression, and endowed thoughts of cutting trees, so they began to cutting ties, so they began to cut ties. Think about it. When people are greedy, and when people start asking you or talking to you, start lying to them. And when you're greedy for something, you don't realize that you are, taking someone else's rights. You don't care whether you upserve the rights of your brother, your mother, your sister. You want that land. You don't care. You'll take them to court. You'll get the best lawyer so you can get that land off them. Your best lawyer so you can get that money at them. The best lawyer so you can get that house off them. And so you'll break them ties of kinship. Why? For a few pennies, for money, for land, for property, for wealth. And as a result of that, you can see here that it leads to lying. It leads to oppression. It leads to breaking ties. And as a result of that, you see families that are breaking apart, all as a result of greed. And you will know, viewers of Madani Channel, many people that are watching this program will have heard of stories where people are falling out, brothers are falling out with each other, brothers and sisters are falling out with each other. Why? Because they're taking each other to court. Why are they taking each other to court? Over a piece of land, over a property, over some wealth, over some inheritance, or something like that, that as a result of that, they're taken to the court. And again, what has happened as a result of that? You may win because you've got a really flashy lawyer, you've got the people on the books, you've got the people that can win the case for you. But as a result of you, yes, you've got that wealth, yes, you've got that land, yes, you've got that house, but as a result of that, what has happened? You've lost that tie relationship. Why? Because you don't value it. You don't value the fact that you broke that relationship. And breaking relationships, breaking our ties, breaking our family ties is something that we need to be worried about as well. And here we mentioned that this illness of greed, certain illnesses, physical illness, they lead to other illnesses. They lead to other problems. So people have one illness and it leads to another problem, another problem. You see people that they started off with one illness and they go on one medicine, and within a couple of years' time, they're on multiple medicines because this has created other illnesses. But here we're told that greed leads to lying, another illness. Lying leads to oppression, another illness. Oppression leads to breaking ties, another illness. So this one illness has led to all of these. And so we need to realize that as a result of that, it can lead to other things. And this is the same with a lot of these diseases of the heart, that they're not standalone diseases, if you know what I mean. They don't just like certain diseases that they're just one-off, that's their only disease. What will happen is as a result of that disease, you'll be afflicted by this one, and afflicted by this one, and afflicted by this one. And so all of the diseases come inside you, and you're not even realizing it. You don't even realize what's happening. That person that's afflicted by greed, that starts telling lies, that starts getting oppression, that starts breaking ties, he doesn't realize he's committing all of these sins. Because all he's seeing is the end result. I've got that house. I've got that land. I've got that money. I've won the case. I'm the winner. That's all he sees. He sees that result. He doesn't see the other results. He doesn't see that on this path that he's come. He may have, won this glass at the end of it, but on this path to come to this glass, how many people has he walked over? How many people has he trampled? How many sins has he committed? And remember this, viewers of Madani Channel, for every sin that we commit, we're going to be held accountable. Yes, we all know this. But we don't think about it, that we are going to be held accountable for every single action, every single sin on the day of judgment. So yes, you've won the case. Yes, you've got that land. Yes, you've got that property. Yes, you've showed your brother up, your sister up. You've showed them that you know what you're talking about. Yeah, you've won what you think you deserve. Or maybe as a result of that. And if, for example, you were on the right path. Let's say, yes, you had that right. It was your right. That money was your right. That wealth was your right. And then if you give it away, so what? As a result of you letting your sister have that land, your sister having that property, or whatever it is, so what? At least you don't break the ties of relationship. And you'll be rewarded for maintaining them ties. And what is this wealth? What is it? It's just a worldly thing, viewers of Madani Channel. But this greed, it affects us and we don't realize. All we see is the end result and we don't care. As long as I've got what I want. There's a saying in English, I'm all right, Jack. As long as I'm all right, I don't care what's happening to him. I don't care what's happening to Tasavvur Bhai. I don't care what's happening to the technical team. I don't care what's happening to my neighbours. I don't care what's happening to my family. As long as I'm all right, I'm all right. As long as I've got my drink here, I've got my cup of tea afterwards. As long as I can get out of here on time, I don't care what happens to anybody else. I don't care what happens to the camera team if they're here till 11 o'clock. I don't care of anything, as long as I'm all right. And that's not how Muslims should live their lives. We should be concerned about everybody around us. We should be concerned about the people that we associate with. We should be concerned about the people that we work with. We should be concerned about our neighbors. We should be concerned about our relatives. Allah not forbid, we're hearing cases in this country where people are dying alone in their houses. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? And can we guarantee, can any one of you guarantee that it will not happen to you? That a time will not come that I will be sitting on my own in my house. Nobody will be there to look after me. Nobody will be there to ask for me. I'll be sitting there watching my TV. And then I'll take my last breath because there's nobody there. And why is there nobody there? What have I done in my life to make as the result that I've lost all my family, that I've lost all my relatives, I've lost all my friends? What have I done? How have I lived my life? Yes, when I was strong, I didn't need them. Because I had money, I had health, I had strength. I didn't need all these people. I thought I was, invincible. Nobody's invincible. Nobody's going to last forever. A time will come when every one of us will be weak. But when that time comes, when we need people, then we've lost people. And it's too late. Jeet Tasavvur, have we got anything for us?
Gigi, we've got for...
Otherwise, I'll just carry on talking. You know what I'm like. Ji Madina.
Bismillah. In regards to the message we received, peace of mind. Daily, if they recite Ya Muhayminu, Ya Muhayminu, Ya Muhayminu 29 times, there's no fixed time. Inshallah, that person will have
anytime.
Peace of mind. Yeah,
29.
anytime. 29 times, once a day. Inshallah.
Once a day? Yeah. Ya Muhayminu.
Ya Muhayminu.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Awwal akhir Durood Sharif. So begin with Durood Sharif and end with Durood Sharif.
Okay.
In regards to the spiritual cure mentioned for the hereafter, fikr of the hereafter, etc. Oops, I'll just close that page off. I'll let you carry on. I'll come back there.
Okay.
I'll just close that page.
Okay, inshallah. Again, we were talking about greed. And another hadith of the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that 2 hungry wolves that are let loose amongst goats, 2 hungry wolves that are let loose amongst goats do not cause as much damage as greed for wealth and love for fame causes to a person's faith. Causes damage to a person's faith, your iman. And our iman, views of Madani Channel, is something that unfortunately we don't value. We don't realize how valuable our iman is. And we don't realize how fortunate we are. And as a result of that, we see what's happening to us. That our iman is the most valuable thing that we have got. That if we lose our iman, we've got nothing. And we don't do anything to protect our iman. We don't put anything in place in the same way that, you see a person that he'll protect his wealth. When I came out, mashallah, tasawwur, when he came, he parked his car at the top of the hill. I'm pretty sure that when he got out of the car, even though the car is parked inside Fazana Medina, even though we have security here, I'm pretty sure that Tasawwur Bhai will have locked the car. Yeah? Why did you lock it? To secure it. To secure it. I locked my car to secure it, even though I know nobody can come in these grounds, yeah? We've got the security here. So we secure our wealth. What about securing our iman? What about putting them things in place to secure our iman? We don't concern about that. We secure our cars, we secure our houses, we make sure our money's in a pocket inside our wallet. I don't have the money, falling out of my pocket here that as soon as I walk outside and the wind will blow it out of my pocket. I don't do that. And if I did that, people would think I'm mad. But are we not doing that with our iman? That we're not worried about what can take our iman away, what can cause us to lose our iman. Are we not concerned about that? Are we not worried that these things that are affecting the diseases of the heart that we mentioned earlier, as a result of that, we are living our lives in such a way that we run the risk of losing our iman? Jeet Tasawwur Bhai, I can carry on all day, but I think I keep on coming back to yourself.
Upon waking up,
this is for the fikr, yeah?
This is the
MashaAllah.
So upon waking up in the morning, recite this 20 times, inshallah, and make it a routine, daily routine. So every time you wake up, Ya Muqtadiru, Ya Muqtadiru, Ya Muqtadiru, 20 times, Durood Sharif before and after.
MashaAllah. Ya
Muqtadiru.
Muqtadiru. MashaAllah. G viewers of the channel, we're starting to come towards the end of the program now. I'll just check if I have any more here. MashaAllah, I don't think I have any more at the moment. There's still a number at the bottom of the screen that you can request your spiritual curios and you can request your istikhara, and inshallah we'll try and give you the result before the end of the program. We're talking about safeguarding our iman and greed being one of the things that can affect our iman. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that at that time, at that crucial time, when our soul is taken away from our body, at that crucial time, the pain that we will feel, the suffering that we will feel. And just to give you an example, you see people that, they phone into work and they don't come to work. And when you ask them, why are you not coming into work? Oh, I've got a toothache. And you think to yourself, well, you're not working with your teeth. Yeah? You're working with your hands, you're working with your feet, yeah? You're not working with your teeth, coming to work, yeah? You're working with your brain. But what happens is that toothache, it affects your whole body, your whole mind. You just can't think straight. Yeah? Because of the pain, you can't think straight. So even a toothache can cause pain that can cause you not to think straight. Imagine the pain at the time of death. And imagine at that time, Shaitan coming to you. Shaitan telling you that, look, you're on the wrong path. Leave this faith. Yeah? Don't die as a Muslim. Say you're no longer a Muslim. Adopt this faith, adopt that path. Don't die as a Muslim. Don't read the kalma. Don't die as a Muslim. And what will happen is the Shaitan will not come in the form of Shaitan, because if the Shaitan comes in his true form, obviously you'll see him and you'll be scared of him. Shaitan will come in the form of your loved ones. Shaitan will come in the form of your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your son, your daughter. And say to you, those that have passed away, they will say to you, look, I made a mistake. Astaghfirullah, they will say, I made a mistake, I died as a Muslim. You don't die as a Muslim. And they will try and take Shaitan will try and take your iman away from you at that moment. So you need to make sure that you safeguard yourself, you protect yourself. And in the same way, views of Madani, that a person who runs a marathon, he doesn't just turn up at the start line. He trains and prepares all his life for that day. He'll be preparing and training for months and months and months before he's at that line. In the same way, we need to live our lives preparing, training, physically preparing ourselves, spiritually preparing ourselves for that day when the angel of death will come to us, for that day that we will enter that dark and lonely grave, for that day when the angels will come and ask us the questions. We need to prepare ourselves and train ourselves all our life. Because unlike that person that runs the marathon, he can plan it because he knows when the marathon is. He's given a date and he can say, that's it. The marathon's the 1st of December. I'll plan it for 8 months. Yeah, I'll have 8 months of training. You don't know when your test is. You don't know when the angel of death is coming to you. You do not know when you're going to enter that dark and lonely grave. So you need to start preparing now. Someone famously said, live your life in such a way that today is your last day. Because one of these days you're going to be right. Live your life in such a way that today is your last day. Because one of these days you're going to be right. In the same way that people that wear a helmet, they wear a helmet when they ride a motorbike for one day. Yeah? They might ride a motorbike for 10 years and then one day they have an accident and that motorbike protects them. But why did they wear it for the other 9.5 years? Why did they wear it for 9 years and 364 days? Why did they not just wear it on that one day? Why? Because they didn't know what that day is. In the same way, we do not know when the angel of death is going to come to us. So we need to live our lives as if today is the last day. We need to protect ourselves today in case today is our last day. Because one of these days, we are going to be right. One of these days, the angel of death will come to us. One of these days, we will be entering that dark and lonely grave. And one of these days, we're going to be asking them questions. And we need to live ourselves, prepare our lives in such a way that when we enter that dark and lonely grave, we can confidently, inshaAllah, answer the questions that are posed to us. And when the blessed Prophet of Allah has appeared to us, we'll know him, we'll recognize him, we'll send Durood Pak upon him, we'll send salutations upon him, and happily, inshaAllah, we can rest in our dark and lonely grave. But for that, in the same way that we protect our lives, in the same way that we protect our physical, health, we need to protect our spiritual health. In the same way that we check ourselves regularly, we go to the doctor to get our BP, our sugar levels, our, all the other levels checked. In the same way, we need to check ourselves for the spiritual diseases. And the only way you can do that, viewers of the channel, is by attaching yourself to those people who talk about them, those people that become aware of them, those people that try and avoid them diseases, those people that try and make other people avoid those diseases. And that is the beautiful environment of Dawah Islami. Where not only will you learn how to live your life, but also you'll learn about those diseases that can affect your life. You learn about the diseases of how the symptoms of them diseases, and you learn of what you need to do if you get them diseases, how to rectify yourself. So viewers of my channel, please, I humbly request you to attach yourself to the environment of Dawah Islami. I want to make one quick announcement of viewers of my channel. It's got nothing to do with this program of Spiritual Cures, but I want to make one quick announcement that I'm hoping that people that are watching this program can benefit from it. MashaAllah, Tasawwur Bhai is here with us today, and Tasawwur, MashaAllah, is our head for the UK for our Tawizat and Istikhara Majlis, the head of the department. There are many departments that are functioning here within Dawah Islami. But Tasawwur Bhai is quite unique. He's not only the head of this department, but he's also a Madani. What is a Madani? A Madani is a scholar that has passed the Dars-e-Nizami, the scholarly examinations through the examination, the course that's been created by Dawah Islami. And Alhamdulillah, the course every year starts in September. And I know maybe there's a lot of people here that are watching this program right now that are thinking to themselves that which university shall I go to? What courses should I do? Alhamdulillah, Dawah Islami is giving you the opportunity in which you can do the Dars-e-Nizami course. There are courses up and down the country for brothers and for sisters, which you can do. For the brothers, I believe it's a 6-year course. For the sisters, it's a 5-year course. Oh, huge fee for this course. And inshallah, Tasawwur Bhai is going to calculate. He needs to get his calculator right now to tell you what the total course fees are for the whole of the 6-year course. And I'm going to hand you over to Tasawwur Bhai whilst he's getting his calculator right. He'll tell you what the course fees are, and he'll tell you how you need to generate all the money to pay for the course fees. Ji Tasawwur Bhai.
It's a long line of zeros, Khalid Bhai. Endless zeros.
Endless zeros. Alhamdulillah, completely free of charge. The course is completely free of charge. Not only is it free of charge for Madani Channel, but where we are residential, for the brothers, we have residential Jamia in Luton, residential Jamia in Birmingham, and residential Jamia here in Bradford. For those that are residents here, we provide you with a room, we provide you with heating, a bed, a table, a cupboard. We provide you with food 3 times a day, and again, a whole long line of zeros, completely free of charge. This is your Dawah Islami, and I think it's a golden opportunity that if you're contemplating your future, what a great future you could have, that if you could become a scholar and have that golden treasure, that knowledge that can obviously, when you become aware of that knowledge, that we're talking very, very briefly today about one of the aspects of that knowledge, that you can obviously rectify yourself, help to rectify others, and pass on this golden chain of knowledge to the people. And it's said that on the Day of Judgment, those people that are Hafiz al-Quran, there's a certain number of people that they can enter into paradise without accountability. But those people that are the scholars, Allahu Akbar, those people that are the scholars, the beloved of Allah, those people that can end countless people into paradise without accountability. So this is the great rewards of this. And so when we were talking earlier on about greed, and we're talking about greed for wealth, greed for money, greed for food, we should have greed for the knowledge of the deen, greed for the closeness of Allah. And one of the ways of getting this greed is attaching yourself to the environment of Dawah Islami and doing this course, becoming an alim ad-din, becoming a scholar. And Nigarani Shura, he mentioned many times that in every household you need a scholar. And those households that have a scholar in the household, you ask them and they can see, I can see the benefit. Maybe I didn't understand it before when Nigarani Shura said, I didn't understand, but now I understand the benefit of having a scholar in my household. You've got an alim ad-din in your household, any problem, ask them. You get them to find the answer, get them to solve it. Yeah, that's the benefit there. And they can ensure that you've got a guide in your house that can help you and rectify you. So please, viewers of the channel, contemplate and think about this. And maybe you're watching this program and think to yourself, well, I can't do it. I can't do it. But maybe if I get somebody else to do it, if I can convince somebody else to do it. There are many jamias up and around down the country in the UK at the moment. And we started with just one. And why we got many jamias in the country? Because of the people that have graduated from our Jamiat al-Madinah and they become teachers in others. So if I was to say to you that we've got one Jamiat al-Madinah in a certain city, and the head teacher there, he was someone that graduated from this Jamia here in Bradford. And 8 years ago, he was a student. He was someone that was watching Madani Channel. Someone convinced him to go and do Dars-e-Nizami. 6 years later, he finishes his Dars-e-Nizami. A year later, he's teaching in a Jamia. And now through him, people are becoming scholars of the deen. And the person that might have convinced him to go and do the course, inshallah, he will also reap the rewards as well. So there are many things in our deen where maybe I can't do it. I can't travel on a 3-day Madani Kafla because I'm busy, but I can get other people. I work every Thursday night, so I can't go to the weekly Ijtima, but I can get other people to come. I haven't got time to go to the Balagan because I'm working, but I can convince other people to go. I can't, go and do the course, but my daughter can, my wife can, my sister can. They can go and do the Dars-e-Nizami course. So again, don't just think, well, I can't do it. And sometimes what happens is Shaitan gets, well, if I can't do it, nobody can do it. Yeah? It's impossible. Nobody can do it. People can do it.
I'd just like to add there, obviously it's got a minimum age. So there is a minimum age, but there's no maximum age. So, like when you say, I can't do it, let's not just jump to it and say, well, I can't do it.
Because I remember sitting, I think you were a student at the time. I don't know if you were a student at the time. I remember sitting with the class. No, you weren't a student at the time because you would have answered me and said, Khalid Bhai, if I can do it, you can do it. I remember I was sitting with the students and I was asking them where they're all from, yeah? And I said, you know what? I wish it was your age, yeah? And I would do it. And Noor Bhai walked through the door. That was the end of the argument. Noor Bhai, mashallah, is a person that previously was a Catholic priest, and in his, I think, early 70s, was it? Early 70s, he accepted Islam. He did the Dars in Islamic course. He graduated in his mid to late 70s, and you know, if he can do it, yeah, what excuse have I got? You know, I'm just making lame excuses. I admit it. I'm making lame excuses. I've got no excuses. You know, and so I've got no excuse for not doing it. So do dua, use my channel for me, that inshallah that day comes. I've made intention that inshallah before the angel of death comes to me, I want to become, you know, an alim within, inshallah. I would love to be able to do that, inshallah. Inshallah, Azza wa Jal, I will, you know, make the intention of somehow, Dawah Islamiyah providing more and more services that are coming on board. Through these services, inshallah, that are coming on board this September, inshallah, maybe I'll be able to avail these services and try and follow in the footsteps of some of our scholars like, mashallah, Tasawwur Madani that sat in the studio.
Inshallah. So I was just mentioning, Ghalba, that one thing is not just jump into, well, I can't do it. Really think about it and consider. And there is a possibility, like I mentioned, that there's no maximum age.
There's no maximum age.
There's no maximum age. And you know, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of brothers. I'm not the only one. There are a lot of brothers.
There are a lot of senior brothers, yeah.
Senior brothers who are married with children.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
alhamdulillah, you know, they've taken that step forward. Is that step that you need to take?
Well, not only that, I mean,
commitment.
you know, there's the full-time Jami, which obviously is a huge commitment.
It is a big commitment.
It is a huge commitment,
Yeah.
and may Allah Azza wa Jalla reward all those people that made that commitment. But in light of that, you know, Dawah Islamiyah is now giving the part-time Jami, which is in the evenings. I think it's 2.5 hours a day.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours a day, 5
Monday to
days a week.
Friday, 5 days.
So again, you know, people go and do university degrees every evening, you know, 2 hours at night. You can do this, you know, and you know, you might think, oh, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. So, you know, take one step at a time, you know, and inshallah, slowly. And I know people that, I know, you know, even I know family members that decided to start the course and think, oh, I'll just do 3 months. And then they don't want to leave it.
How about the 6 years? You know, I remember when we started and I was talking to Sasa and they go, 6 years.
6 years.
6 years. It sounded like a mountain. But you know, honestly, they went so quick.
You know, I remember someone saying that, you know, it's a 6-year course. And if you don't do that course, in 6 years' time, you'll be sitting here, not done that course. You know, these 6 years will pass.
Definitely.
Yeah? It's up to you how you pass these 6 years. Yeah? Our life, our time that we're here will pass. And so what we need to, you know, viewers of my channel, that throughout our life, we need to ask ourselves, what have we achieved? What have you achieved? What have I achieved? Have I achieved a big house, a big car, big wealth? Now, I'm not saying that's haram. No, I'm not saying it's haram. Yeah, you can have a big house. You can have the biggest car you want, the most money you want. But again, what about the hereafter? What about preparing for that? What have I achieved for that? What have I put in that bank balance? You know, and that is what we need to contemplate. And time flies. You know, I was thinking the other day that, you know, over the last 15 years, what word Dawah Islamiyah has got in the UK, I'm thinking, where did them 15 years go? They're just gone. 15 years ago, we didn't have Madani Channel. 15 years ago, we didn't have this building. 15 years ago, we didn't have this. It's just gone. And you think, wow, yeah. Alhamdulillah, Dawah Islamiyah has achieved so much here in the UK in the last 15 years. And inshallah, it's continued to achieve. But time goes on, time passes. You know, time doesn't stop for anybody. You know, and no matter how rich you are, no matter how poor you are, you've all got 24 hours in a day. Yeah? So utilize that time and try and come closer to the deen. We come to the end of the program.
Yeah, our time passes fast as look at so quick.
The thing is, please forgive me, viewers of my channel. When I start talking, you know what I'm like. I've got a bad habit. I talk too much. Please forgive me, viewers of my channel. I hope and pray that we've learned something today, and I hope that the wazaif that the Tasawwur has given to us, we can benefit from them. And I forgot to mention.
While he's
waiting.
Ya hakamu abundantly. While he's waiting.
Inshallah, inshallah. But I think, again, you know, something I forgot to mention at the beginning, but if when you are watching these spiritual cures, even if you're not afflicted by the disease that is mentioned, if you make a note of them, then inshallah, you know, by you passing them on to those, they can benefit as well. I pray to Allah that you have learned something from today, and keep watching Madani Channel. And until the next program, keep watching Madani Channel. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
May Allah heal you from